more radical came into power. So yeah, this whole regime change idea is like, it sounds nice, but has it worked in the future? And if you guys really want this, please tell me how it's going to end up different. Please explain to me.
With a country that has a leader who hates us and wants to kill us, or to have a country with a leader who likes us and wants to be friends with us. And
definitely the latter is better.
Of course.
Yeah.
And so that's not a complicated statement. Look, I believe you look across the world when you have countries that have dictators that are viciously anti-America. Venezuela, Maduro hates us. Would we be better off with Maduro out of power? Absolutely. I want our enemies out of power, and I want our friends in power.
I could not agree more. The question is, how do you get there?
Of course.
And we've been trying to kill Maduro for quite some time. We have troops there.
I don't know that we've been trying to kill Maduro.
We have. Oh. And I think you know that. And
I don't know that.
Okay, well, as a statement of fact, we have. So
we do have massive sanctions. We tried to pressure him out of office.
Yeah,
I'm not aware of that.
I'm just saying there's a lot of pressure coming from various parts of the U.S. government on that government, and it's still there.
Yeah.
Same, the country of our ancestors, Cuba, 1959, we've been working on that. Hasn't worked. So it's I think we both agree it's hard to do.
It absolutely is hard. And look, I think you're reasonable to ask, how do we produce that? And I think there's a distinction between what your objective is and the means to get it. There are all sorts of things I would say we would be better off. We'd be better off in China without Xi there. Should we invade China and topple Xi? Of course not.
We'd be better off with no national debt.
There are lots of things.
Totally.
But it's good to say, all right, what are our objectives?
Right.
And so with the Ayatollah in Iran, saying you're for regime change, I don't view as complicated. I mean, the guy literally leads mobs chanting death to America. Mm-hmm. So that's not good.
I mean, yeah, we all agree that that's not good, but a regime change also never ends good. So maybe we might want to try something a little different. Maybe. I'm just saying. I don't know. Well, chat, what you think?
Definitely not good. But the reason I think it's important to get a little more detailed about how that might happen is because there's military action in progress, which we're supporting. And the president has said clearly, including last night, that he is focused on eliminating the capacity of the Iranian government to produce nuclear weapons. You are saying we need to use military force to effect regime change.
I have not said that.
Oh, I must have.
No, I have not said that once. Okay. I don't think we need to use military force to do regime change. I said I support it. I would like to see it happen. You asked me how should it happen? A popular uprising. What I've advocated for. All right, let's step back a second. You and I, we've known each other a long time. I would say we agree on about 80% of the things on Earth.
For sure.
And there are a lot of things, and we can get into the nitty-gritty of foreign policy as much as you want. There are a lot of things on which you and I agree, not just a little bit, but violently.
I totally agree. I was rooting for you in your last campaign, for sure.
Well, thank you. Look, you have been heroic on the border. You've been one of the clearest and best voices in the whole country on securing the border and on the absolute crisis we're facing. And in Texas, I see it and live it every day. In COVID, in fact, you may recall, in the middle of the COVID lockdown, I was out walking my dog when the whole world was shut down and we were living in lunatic times. And I called you and said, Tucker, your nightly monologues are the single best thing on television. Like I watch them like an injection of crack. Okay, I'm mixing my metaphor because you don't inject crack, but you get what I'm saying.
Try.
No, I mean, you were standing up and speaking like, what the hell are we doing, in a way that we desperately, desperately needed. And so whether it's securing the border, whether it's the insanity of COVID lockdowns and the vaccine mandates, whether it is the Second Amendment or the First Amendment, you and I agree on a ton of stuff. The 20% where we disagree, I do think is meaningful. And it's mostly in the foreign policy space. And what I would say, if you'll allow me to get a little theoretical, and then I'm happy to get specific.
Yes.
For a long time, people had perceived two different poles of Republican foreign policy. There have been interventionists, and those have been people like John McCain and Lindsey Graham and George W. Bush. And there have been isolationists. And the most prominent of those have been Ron Paul and Rand Paul, and there are others. And people perceive.
Here's the thing, though. You can call them isolationists, or you can just call them people who just want to stay out of other people's business. and don't throw taxpayer dollars and American lives into the wind. Like, you ever just thought about that? Instead of isolationists, they could be, I don't know, lifesavers.
Those are the two choices. You got to be one or the other. I've always thought both were wrong. I don't agree with either one. The way I view my own foreign policy.
I'm with you, by the way, for whatever it's worth. Yeah. I agree with you.
Okay, good.
I don't know who set up that binary, but there are lots of choices, actually.
I mean, people sort of naturally fall into, I think they want to classify people, and they're like, okay, you're one or the other, and you got to be all or nothing. And the interventionists, it seems, have never seen a country they didn't want to invade, and that doesn't make any sense to me. And the isolationists, I think, don't take the threats to America seriously. And I think that's naive and it doesn't work. And so
here's the thing. You want us to go to war on a threat. And that's actually a gross misinterpretation of his argument. But that's what I hear a lot of the pros Israel guys who want to get into war with these guys. And it's like, well, do you not hear what they say about America? They chant death to America. I'm just like, so you want to get into war over a threat? I mean, you know how much other countries chant death to America goddamn on the daily? We're not talking about throwing over them. So over a chant, we should just, topple the whole regime, damn near go to war with the whole country because over a chant. Like, I don't know, guys. I think we gotta have thicker skin than that. Like, trust me, I find it disrespectful and I don't like it either. But to go to war with them over it, I think I'd just rather not visit there or get involved in their conflicts.
I consider myself a third point on the triangle. And what I describe that as is that I am a non-interventionist hawk, which sounds a little weird, but what do I mean by that? I mean the central touch point for U.S. foreign policy and for any question of military intervention should be the vital national security interest of the United States. How does this make America safer? How does this protect Americans? If it does, we should be strong. And actually, another way of conceiving what I'm saying, I'm speaking theoretically, but Reagan referred to it as peace through strength. And actually, I think Donald Trump's foreign policy is very much what I'm describing, a non-interventionist hawk, where he understands that, and I think this is historically true, the best way to avoid war is being strong. That weakness and isolationism, I think, encourages war. So going back to,
let's be real. If you want to apply that to Iran and Israel, they were going to go at it regardless. And let's be real, it was going to get to that point regardless if we were in it or not. There's a lot of situations that were going to pop off, and let's be real, it kind of got worse when we intervened. There are some situations that might have just ended off in a civil war, a simple change in leadership, and that'd have been that instead of the entire I ain't gonna lie, throwing the whole country into turmoil. It's like, yeah, I don't know. Your argument's not standing up to history right now. It's not.
Regime change, where you started in Iran.
I don't think I disagree with anything you've said. So we may not be that far apart, really, because you said that the single criterion for making decisions about America's foreign policy is America's national interest.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah. Which is also America first. That's another way of putting that as well.
I think it's the definition of it. Yeah.
It's hardly breaking news. The U.S. dollar has been gravely
I don't know about that one. I don't know about that. It's like I said, at least you tell me us being an isolationist is a threat to American, safety. I don't know, man. You're going to have to throw some hard balls at me then, because nobody want to touch us. And trust me, I know why, because of our military force. So we secured enough military force to not really have that fear of just any country coming at us.
Watching that now.
Especially Iran. Of all countries, it most likely will not be Iran.
So I think we are. And from what you've said publicly, I think on Iran in particular, you and I disagree. And all right, let me contrast it when Obama was president. When Obama was president, you remember he talked about wanting to have military action against Syria.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I tried to keep an open mind to it. I said, okay, let me listen to the commander-in-chief, describe to me how this is in America's interest and what your plan is. And Bashar Assad was a bad guy. He was killing his own citizens, and he had chemical weapons that were very dangerous. I could conceive of a commander-in-chief laying out a plan for, okay, we're going to go in and say, grab the chemical weapons and leave. Like I could see that if there was a real threat to America and there was a plan to prevent that, I could see supporting that. So I wanted to hear what he had to say. And I listened both in classified briefings and public questioning. And number one, their public defense of it was incoherent. So John Kerry said, we're going to engage in an unbelievably small strike. I think that's a quote. I'm like, okay, and to do what? At the time, there were 9 major rebel Islamic groups in Syria. I'm like, okay, I agree, Bashar Assad's a bad guy. You topple him. And one of the 9 other groups takes over. 7 of them were affiliated with radical Islamic terrorism. You had Al-Qaeda and Al-Nusra. I'm like, wait, how is it better to have lunatics who hate us in charge? Assad's a bad guy, but I don't want worse guys in charge. Obama administration couldn't give an answer to that. And ultimately, when you press them,
they don't care about that. They just care about the warmongering part and making money off it. And then it goes even better if the country is disabled after that, because that fuels, you know what? It fuels way more war. So here's the thing. It's like I said, it's a line of, we're going down an alley or a path of perpetual war because this is what these guys want. And guys like Ted Cruz, I think he means well, but he's not really seeing the correlation of, when you have a regime change, things don't get better, they actually get worse, and we create more enemies of America. Well, more enemies of America.
John Kerry in particular, I pressed, and he would say, well, we need to defend international norms. Like, what the hell is an international norm? I don't know what it is, but I'm not interested in putting U.S. servicemen and women in harm's way to defend one.
Amen. So
I opposed the Syria attack and opposed it vocally. And it was interesting. Rand and I agreed. Rand's a friend of mine, but we agreed with that position for different reasons. What I was asking is I think the question we should ask, how does this make America safer? The Obama administration couldn't give me an answer, so I opposed it. I think Iran is very different.
Let me ask what you think of how Syria wound up, because Bashar al-Assad now lives in Moscow.
Yeah.
He was taken out by our allies, and he's been replaced by a radical Islamist who was affiliated with ISIS. So is that a win or no?
Unclear. Look, Syria's a mess, so I've consistently opposed.
But we had a secular leader in a religious and ethnically diverse country. Now we have a religious extremist, Islamic religious extremist, who's overseen the purge of Christians and Alawites. Is that better? That doesn't seem like a win.
One of the things you said is he was taking.
I mean, and then the only thing these guys got to say, well, at least he's talking to Trump. I mean, at least we got dialogue now. I mean, but it's the same result. I mean, instead, we just got a more complicit terrorist.
Taken out by our allies. I don't think that's right. Israel didn't take Assad out. What happened, and I'll tell you.
What about Turkey?
Turkey didn't take him out. So it was interesting. I had a long.
How did Assad get kicked out?
Yeah. When Netanyahu was in D.C. a couple of months ago, he and I sat down for a couple of hours. He's a good friend of mine. And we talked actually about Syria. He made an interesting point that I've not heard anywhere else, in that he said he believes what toppled Assad was when Israel took out Nasrallah. Nasrallah was the head of Hezbollah, and they took him out.
Mm-hmm.
And he made an interesting point. He said it's fascinating how a charismatic leader, and Bibi said, look, Nasrallah was a very effective terrorist leader. And when they took him out, that power base was supporting Assad. And that ultimately, in Bibi's analysis, removed the support from Assad and toppled him. But they weren't trying to take out Assad. My view now, I don't know.
So you don't think that, and I don't, it is very confusing, and I don't know that anyone really knows all the details, but you don't think that Israel or Turkey, our NATO ally Turkey, played any role in toppling Assad?
I don't know. I don't know that they did. Look, my understanding of that, they clearly took out Nasrallah and Hezbollah. They've decimated Hezbollah, but Hezbollah is waging war on them. So
NATO is kind of known to get secretly involved in some things. So do we through our CIA, but let's be real. NATO had fingerprints all over that drone strike in Russia. Bro, NATO fingerprints all over it. So to say that NATO might have had no involvement in Syria, I doubt it. I'm pretty sure it has something to do with it.
Decimating Hezbollah was very good for Israel and very good for America, too. I mean, Hezbollah hated us. I would put Assad in the category of an unintended consequence, and whether it's good or bad, I don't know. I think time will tell.
For the United States.
Yeah, for the United States. I think time will tell the new leadership there. You're right to be concerned. Let me step back and let's talk regime change generally. I mentioned Syria. I also oppose the Iraq War. I think the Iraq War was a serious mistake. And we have a pattern, and going back to this binary of the interventionist and the isolationist. The interventionists advocate over and over again, there's a bad guy, there's a dictator who's doing bad things to his people, and they say, let's go topple him. And you have dictators in the Middle East who are killing radical Islamic terrorists. We come in and topple them. The radical Islamic terrorists take over, and they start killing Americans. In my view, how the heck does that help us? Like, Saddam Hussein was a horrible human being. He murdered.
But I mean, that's what we do, though. We'll get involved. We'll pick a side in the civil war. We'll have usually the most radical group take over, and then it becomes a bigger problem. Yeah, that's because we intervene. That's because that's what you guys are. Like, so here's the problem. What's wrong with taking an isolationist stance? What's wrong with taking that stance for the one time, guys? Just for the one time. Just try it out. Just try it out. Just one time.
And tortured people. Unequivocally bad guy. But it got much worse after we toppled him. And you ended up having ISIS rise up. I mean, that was the cause of ISIS, was toppling Saddam Hussein. Same thing in Libya. You had Gaddafi, another horrible guy, that under Obama, we toppled him. And you ended up having radical Islamic warlords taking over. And so, it's the question I asked in Syria. Okay, well, what's the plan? And how is this good or bad for the United States? And so I don't think... With Iran, I view Iran as very different from Iraq.
But up to that point, you say we disagree. I don't hear really anything. I'm not quite sure what happened in Syria, but I don't know. So, right. But other than that, I don't hear anything I disagree with at all.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're in a complete agreement. I wonder, though, is there a successful regime change that the United States supported that you're aware of in the last 100 years?
Sure. Defeating the Soviet Union and the Soviet Union collapsing, winning the Cold War. That was the most consequential step for U.S. national security interests of our lifetimes.
Okay.
And
so you would classify that as a regime change that we affected?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Look, you and I are in my office. We're sitting next to a painting of Reagan in front of.
Honestly, he should have said, name a regime change in the Middle East that turned out well. Because, man, he said ever. Yeah, that kind of gave him the scapegoat of the Soviet Union.
The Brandenburg Gate. And up top are the words, tear down this wall, in German, in the style of the graffiti.
Right.
And I think those are the most important words any leader has said in modern times. And if you look at how Reagan waged the Cold War, and Reagan is very much my model for how to, I actually think how Reagan took on the Soviet Union is exactly how we should take on China. Now, starting from the point, look, Reagan was not an interventionist. In 8 years, the biggest country Reagan ever invaded was Grenada. He was very reluctant to use U.S. military force.
He didn't respond after the 83 barracks bombings.
You're right. Yeah, he made the judgment that the risk exceeded the benefits. And that's a very rational decision to make. And it's reflected. Trump has made those same decisions where he is willing to use military force, but he very much asks, okay, is this good or bad for America? Does this endanger U.S. servicemen and women or not? And one of the points about the Cold War, look, nobody in their right mind wanted a shooting war between America and the Soviet Union. The two biggest nuclear powers on Earth firing bullets at each other is really unhealthy for human beings. Same thing is true with China. Nobody with any sense says, hey, let's go to war with China. That's really dumb, and a whole lot of people could die. But the Cold War showed we've got lots of tools short of sending the Marines to fight against a regime. And one of the most important tools is the bully pulpit. And so when I say I support regime change, I actually think just simply laying out what the Ayatollah does. And so I spend a lot of time, I speak to Iranian dissident groups. I speak out against human rights abuses. I think shining a light on the depravity of leaders is a really powerful tool that America has.
Should we limit our activity to that?
It depends. Again,
because the U.S. government.
I mean, well, any economic war we engage in, since we're a more powerful economy, we're always going to win. I mean, look how we crippled China. Well, China was already on the downswing from its housing bubble popping in 2022. They never really recovered from that. I mean, man, COVID hurt them. Their housing bubble pop hurt them, and then the fact that terrorists start closing down all their business, a lot of businesses, and causing mass unemployment. Yeah, that pretty much damn near sunk them. And now these guys are pretty much asking for war because they see that as the only way from keeping the regime in place, or well, the CCP.
Government pays opposition groups, militarized opposition groups in Iran to overthrow the government. We've done that in a lot of different places, as you know. I'm not saying it's bad, but that's very different from what you're describing. You're saying we're making a moral case, as we did for 7 years with the Soviets. Our system works, yours doesn't.
Yep.
And I think we made a credible case for that, and we beat them over 70 years economically.
And that was a huge part of it.
Right. I think everyone would agree that was the main part of it. We didn't beat them in Vietnam or North Korea.
The main part of it, but it was tied to a military buildup. So I think it was two things. It was one, the clarity. So Reagan came in and he described the Soviet Union as an evil empire.
Right.
And all of the intelligentsia in DC, all the Democrats, all the media, they're like, what a horrible thing to say. You can't say that. Reagan went to the United Kingdom and he said, Marxism, Leninism will end up on the ash heap of history. People were horrified. They asked him, all right, what's your strategy in the Cold War? He said, very simple. We win, they lose. And that was all viewed as sort of a Philistine simplicity. And I think it was exactly right. And laying that out, speaking, do you know?
And shout out to my man Vlad Steen. He says the Iran people deserve some form of freedom to decide their leaders, not be stuck with a cult-like regime for generations, and women have to wear hijabs. You know, hey, I agree. But, I mean, here's the thing, though. Do we need to cause dysfunction in the Middle East over that? And if these guys can do a regime change with a consensus of, like, I mean, majority of Iran being with it, then sure, that's how we're gonna ensure that there's just no like fallout in Iran. That's how we're gonna ensure that, and there's not civil wars left and right. Because the problem is, we'll put in a leader, and maybe half of Iran agrees, or I'm sorry, but half of that country agrees, the other half don't, and they end up going to war over it.
The backstory behind the Berlin Wall speech?
Yeah, I do. Yes.
You probably know Peter Robinson, who was the speechwriter.
Yes.
So 3 times the State Department deleted those words from that speech. And 3 times Reagan wrote it back. And the State Department argued, they said, Mr. President, you can't say this. This is too bellicose. This is too provocative. And
hey, and shout out to D. They said, I hope everyone can find and watch the BB Files. Would enjoy a video from you after watching. Oh, no, I already watched the BB Files. Oh, no, I already know everything about the corruption of a Bibi Netanyahu, you know, the cigars, the wine, the champagne, the wife love oh so much, her crazy attitude, all that good stuff. Trust me, it was quite an interesting documentary. And you can actually watch the documentary on my Rumble. So you can go ahead and go to Set Media on Rumble, and you will go ahead and find the documentary there. Or you can go to my post tab, and you also find the link to the video there. You're welcome.
Favorite, they said, this is too unrealistic. The Berlin Wall will stand till the end of time. And Reagan said, look, this is the whole point of the speech. And less than 3 years after Reagan gave that speech, the Berlin Wall was torn to the ground. And it wasn't knocked down by American Army tanks. We didn't shoot missiles at it. It was shining truth and light that tore it down. It was also rebuilding the American military. It was what was then pejoratively called Star Wars, where the Soviet Union, their economy couldn't match our military buildup, and it bankrupted them. That's an example of peace through strength.
I wonder, I mean, is there anybody who is alive?
I mean, it's kind of like what we did with China. It's like secretly, a lot of people don't know this, but we are about 30% of China's exports. And the reason why a lot of people don't know about that extra 15% is because really it's about 16.8% that we have counted for, you know, through China, through us just sending China, you know, through China sending our dairy products to us. That's 16%. Now, the other 15% comes from the fact that China sends their products to Vietnam, Mexico, Indonesia to be relabeled and sent into America tariff-free. So there is tariff products that China sends in, which is about 16% of their exports. And then there's the non-tariff products they send in because they send it to other countries to get relabeled into America. I mean, yeah, Yeah, I mean, that's one way China did avoid being taken out by like, well, kind of like Russia or the Soviet Union.
In 1989, who wouldn't trade that America for the one we live in now? There's not one person, I don't think.
Oh, sure.
But I mean, just the basic metrics, debt, suicide rate, life expectancy. I wonder why after that victory, America didn't thrive in the way that we thought that it would, that I thought that it would. My family was involved in that. I mean, we were very focused on it in my house. Like, we won. And I wonder two things. Why didn't the United States kind of declare victory and make some sort of arrangement with Russia that allowed like mutual prosperity rather than continuing a Cold War? And second, I wonder why the United States didn't get a lot better. Like, why don't we have better infrastructure? Why don't we have fewer homeless? Why do we have all these drugs? Like, if we won, why does our country look like this? I walked across from Union Station this morning, as you do, I'm sure, every day. And all those people lying in the street and sleeping outside. It's like, what is that?
We're sorry to say it, but this is not a very safe country. Walk through Oakland or Philadelphia. Yeah, good luck.
I mean, sure, we do got a point. And here's the thing, like this, all this money we done spent on these forever wars could have went towards American citizens. All these problems we have and the situations we have funding our own social services. Well, let's be real. If we rack up the bill from all these wars we got into, we could probably cover that like 10 times over for our own citizens. Guys.
Warehouse to get your steak.
Really dangerous forces in our society. Some of it is politics and some of it is culture. And one of the mistakes people make in politics is thinking everything is politics. So the political answer, which I happen to believe, is we went much further down the road of liberalism. You look at Bill Clinton, who inherited the peace dividend of the Cold War being over and moved us more to the left, and then Obama accelerated it a lot. And so there are lots of bad economic policies, but I also think they're cultural things. The loss of faith,
I agree with
the loss
all of
family.
That. I know what you're going to say, and I agree 100%. I bet there's not one word that I would disagree with. All I'm saying is, like, I think it's important to step back and ask.
But I actually think Russia has very little to do with it. So,
well, that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make, which is, like, we're all sort of focused on beating our adversaries abroad, but what is victory worth if our own country becomes what it is now? And maybe we're spending a little too much time focused abroad and not enough time focused on the people sleeping outside Union Station.
So, look, I absolutely think we need to focus at home emphatically, and we need to focus on prosperity. We need to focus on reducing the debt, reducing spending, empowering people, low taxes, small businesses, American free enterprise. It's the most powerful force for fighting poverty the world has ever seen. I'm 1,000% there.
I mean, yeah, because look at these communist regimes. I mean, a lot of them have a high poverty rate. Socialism, a high poverty rate. Well, poverty rate. Sorry, guys. But yeah. So a lot of people don't like capitalism, especially in our own country, even though they benefit from it themselves. But I always do say, well, why don't you go to one of these more socialist countries, go live there and see how you like it. Go to a communist country, see how you like it, since capitalism is oh so bad, right?
I also recognize it is a dangerous world. And part of the responsibility of leaders, part of President Trump's responsibility is to keep America safe. But let's go back to where we started.
But can I ask, like, you've been in the district a long time in D.C., so have I. And the city's way more dangerous, and Congress runs this city.
No, it's a complete crap hole.
So I'm saying, like, no Iranian's ever going to kill me, but I could get carjacked here. Well, and I just don't understand how the Congress could run this city and focus on the dangers of Iran when the city is like garbage. Okay. It's garbage.
But Congress doesn't run the city. We could.
Congress does run the city. It's in the Constitution.
It's in the Constitution, but they've given home rule, so it's a Democrat mayor.
You can take it back. You control the Congress.
I'd vote for it, but it is a question of math.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like, why? How can people ignore? It's like, if my own kids are drug addicts, but I'm focused on my neighbor's kids, it's like I'm neglecting my own kids. And there's a sense in which the Congress is neglecting the country that elected them in favor of this relentless focus on other people's problems. That's the way it feels as an American.
Look, there are lots of problems in America that we need to fix. Why is D.C. a pit? Because you have a mayor and a Democrat city council that won't let police officers arrest bad guys. And in every city you see across the country, whether it's New York, whether it's Chicago, whether it's L.A., whether it's San Francisco, if you have Democrats, we see the L.A. riots where they won't let people be arrested. All right.
Then why not work in regime change here? Why not use the bully pulpit?
What do you think I do every day?
I never see a Republican senator stand up and say, I just walked to work this morning over people dying of drug ODs. We're going to shut this place down unless they fix it. They're mad about Putin. Like, what did Putin do to Washington? Nothing.
Look, in terms of regime change, let's talk this week. The riots in L.A., I've made very clear that the cause of those riots are Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass. And when you elect communists who hate America, who stop law enforcement from arresting criminals, you get what you get on the street.
Amen, I agree.
My in-laws are Californians, and they're wonderful people. Heidi grew up on the Central Coast of California. And I remember I was texting with my mother-in-law, and
a lot of people don't even see the disrespect of even defending these illegals. It's like I said, it's a disrespect to the people who actually want to follow our laws. It's a disrespect to the American law, and a disrespect to democracy, since we all voted for this, since you Dems love to hinge on that. But they don't see that for some reason, because honestly they're like acting like spoiled children who are acting out because they didn't get their way, and that's kind of what these protesters are, spoiled children.
And I think I sent her a video of criminals going to a store and just looting in California. And her response, she said something like, well, this is really terrible. I wish we could. It's a shame we can't do anything about this. I said, yes, you can. Go in and arrest them. Throw their butts in jail. Put them in handcuffs. 100%. And it stops.
Exactly.
And so we know how to fix these things. And D.C. is, I think D.C. voted, if I remember right, 92% Democrat. Democrat policies don't work, and they destroy every community that they are in charge of.
Then why don't Republicans assert their constitutional authority over the city? Don't they control the Congress?
Yes, I'd be all for it.
Who's against it?
Susan Collins is really vocally against it. So on questions of home rule, so for example, let's take an issue you and I care a lot about, the COVID lockdowns. I had a couple of years ago in the middle of them. D.C. was proposing, the D.C. school district was proposing throwing out of school any child that was not vaccinated. And at the time, if I remember correctly, it was something like 40% of the African-American students in D.C. were not vaccinated. So they were talking about literally throwing out 40% of the kids at public school. Yeah. And so I had a vote on the Senate floor to say, look, they can't throw kids out of school for this. And we ended up having a big argument, and part of the argument was home rule, where and Susan was the most vocal Republican. It's like, no, we have to let.
I'll be real with you. Like, a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of people in the Black community was not cool with that vaccine, including myself. Like, I didn't take it, and a lot of parents did not trust it, especially once they found out that it was like, barely tested, almost zero testing. Nobody really wanted to do it. So yeah, a lot of people in the Black community was facing that challenge. Now, except for those in the red state. The red states, they were a bit more safer, but if you were in a blue state, I mean, trust me, you faced a lot of repercussions.
A DC run, and I'm like, why? Constitution gives us the power to do it. And it ended up, by the way, every single Democrat, all of them, voted in favor of the DC public schools being able to throw out 40% of the Black kids from school. And I said, look, you throw a kid out of school, you got a 14, 15-year-old boy, you throw him out of school, you know what's going to happen next. He's going to join a gang. He's going to engage in crimes. He's going to engage in drugs. He could be dead within 5 years if that kid doesn't get an education. And the Democrats were more than happy to say, we don't care. Right now, our religion is get the vaccine or.
Bro, Fox is trying to promote war. I'm not. So sit down, shut up, and listen. And stop kicking and screaming for attention. Like, what are you, a woman?
To hell with you.
But can you see, I mean, once again, I couldn't agree with you more, but can you feel the frustration of people, including your voters, every American, at the emphasis on foreign countries and the threat we supposedly face, a lot of which is fake, obviously, over the kind of slowly unfolding tragedy of what's happening to our country? The dollars spent, the aid packages to Ukraine to pay the retirement of civil servants in a country that we have nothing to do with, the endless support for Israel, very expensive, when people are literally buying groceries on credit in the United States. Can you feel like it's nothing against Ukraine or Israel or any other country?
All right, let's stop. You said the support for Israel, very expensive. How much support do we give to Israel?
Well, you tell me. You vote for it.
Yeah, it's about $3 billion a year is the military assistance.
Mm-hmm. Is that the only assistance?
Yeah, we just have military assistance. Israel does not have additional assistance. There's an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, and it's $3 billion a year.
So what is it costing to support the bombing campaign to protect Israel right now from Iran?
So I don't know right now, but I'll tell you this. Let's go back to the touchstone on foreign policy. American interest, our support, our military support for Israel is massively in America's national security
But what
interest,
does it
and
cost?
it benefits
Is
us
it?
enormously.
Well, before we
I
can
don't know about that, man. I mean, all them people we done took down for Israel, like we done got Benjamin Netanyahu's whole list, and we done spent a whole lot of money, lost a whole lot of American lives, and really ain't gained too much. I'll tell you that right now. So, are you sure that Israel's military interests align with American military interests, or you guys just somehow magically make it line up?
before we can make independent judgments about whether or not that's true, and I'm certainly open to it, I think we need to know what it costs. So what's the annual cost of defending Israel? Do you know?
$3 billion a year.
No, that's the aid. But I mean, the cost of the weapons, for example, the cost of U.S. personnel there, the cost of moving ships to the region, which we're doing right now, the cost of moving tankers to the region, all of that. Do we know what the cost is?
So look, the last week, I don't know. And there's some lag.
No, Tucker, we don't count that. Like, what you mean? We kind of beat people's argument with that through, oh no, we only give them $3 billion a year when we don't count, the military equipment, boots on the ground, all that good stuff that we provide for Israel. No, we don't count that. Why would we do that? Because that'd be exposing how much we really spend on these guys. Of course. Crazy how we even asked that question. But shout out to Droning in the Scenery. The money is an illusion. It's just computer codes now. I mean, shoot, yeah, ask the Federal Reserve.
When the administration, under the Constitution, the commander-in-chief has control of the armed forces. And so President Trump has made some decisions that we'll know the cost over time, but I don't know the last week. I don't have visibility on that. The annual cost is $3 billion. It's a 10-year memorandum of understanding, and that's the principal driver of the cost. But let me make a point. We get massive benefits from Israel. Israel shares. The Mossad is one of the best intelligence sources on the planet. The enemies of Israel, the people who hate Israel, they all hate us. It's almost a perfect overlap. And so if we tried to recreate
I mean, all right, what do you mean by hating Israel? I would have to ask them. I mean, like, disagreeing with what the Israeli government is doing, or you mean just outright hating Jews? Because, I mean, if you're talking about outright hating Jews, and I mean, real with you, got a point. But if you're talking about disagreement with what Israel is doing as their government, like, Benjamin Netanyahu and his whole cabinet there, yeah, you're being a bit dishonest with that claim.
If we're just trying to defend America, we tried to recreate the national security benefits of our alliance with Israel, it would cost, I don't know, $30 billion, $300 billion.
So can you elaborate? And again, I'm going into this as someone who's always liked Israel and still does. But I also think at this point, given where we are, it's fair to ask rational questions about what the benefits are.
Good.
So does Mossad share all of its intelligence with us?
Oh, probably not, but they share a lot. Really? We don't share all of our intelligence with them, but we share a lot. It's a close alliance.
Do they spy domestically in the United States?
Oh, they probably do, and we do as well. And friends and allies spy on each other. And I assume all of our allies spy on us.
And that's okay with you?
You know what? One of the things about being a conservative is that you're not naive and utopian. You don't think humans are all. Part of the reason socialism doesn't work is the mantra from each according to his abilities to each according to his needs.
I mean, yeah. I mean, one of the reasons socialism doesn't work because conservatives don't live in that fantasy that people won't act within their self-interest. And the capitalism kind of plays along with that. Well, human behavior, really, honestly, human nature at that point. So, yeah, like socialism is kind of something that you got to force because, let's be real, it's a fairy tale if you think people are going to go along with it willingly. And capitalism just goes along with the human nature of going along with their self-interest, every person's self-interest.
Doesn't work. As a conservative, I assume people act in their rational self-interest.
So it's conservative to pay people to spy on you?
It's conservative to recognize that human beings act in their own self-interest, and every one of our friends spies on us. And I'm not.
Do you like it? That's my question. I'm not asking whether they have motive to do it.
I mean, look, I get that everybody acts within their self-interest, but that doesn't mean you allow spying, though. I mean, hold on now, G. I was with you there. I was with you. And so you said that, like, whoa, I didn't know you was going to lead it into letting us get spied on now. That's a bit of a turn.
But of course they do. I understand that. And by the way, I'm not mad at them. But you're an American lawmaker, so I just want to know, hold on. I want to know your attitude. Yeah. You said that your guiding principle, in fact, the only principle, the only criterion.
I said guiding, the overwhelming. I wouldn't say only.
Is it in America's interest? Is it in America's interest for Israel to spy on us, including on the president?
It is in America's interest to be.
Shoot, I'd ask them this: is it okay for them to spy on us, and is it okay for them to have a nuke as well without us knowing, or without anybody being able to check on it? But damn near the whole world knows. Like, is that okay? Is it okay for Israel to just have all this free reign to pretty much subvert international law and all that good stuff? Is that okay? Is that working within Americans' interest, Ted?
Closely allied with Israel because we get huge benefits for it. And you want to see the clearest.
But I just want to stop on this flying for a second. That it takes place, as you know, and including on the president of the United States and several precedents. And I just want to know if that's okay and why is it okay? Wouldn't an American lawmaker say to a client state, you're not allowed to spy on us? I'm sorry. I know why you want to. I'm not mad at you, but you're not allowed to.
Sure.
And I don't care for it. I don't want to be spied on by you. It's kind of weird not to say that, but you don't see.
And all right, guys, now let's go ahead and take a quick little comedic interlude. You know, let's share this little funny clip, man. Shout out to the PBD parody account. All right, guys.
Okay, guys, I want to clarify about the big surprise, because everybody's been giving me shit about this all day because nothing happened. So here goes, okay?
The big surprise happened. It was just late as hell. Like, we was thinking in the morning or right there and then, and this man releases it like 10 hours later. I'm like, okay, well, I guess you were right about the surprise, just at the wrong time.
Okay, guys, I want to clarify about the big surprise, because everybody's been giving me shit about this all day because nothing happened. So here goes, okay? I did have a big surprise. But when I gave the order to detonate, they told me we had no nuclear scientists anymore. They're all dead. So I said, you know what? Bring me the freaking bomb. I will detonate that bitch myself. They said, sir, there is no bomb. So I said, what do you mean there is no bomb? And they said, no bomb, sir. We just heard Israel say we had one, so we all thought we had one. But we don't have shit. And then the morning came, and I was all depressed and shit, so that's what happened.
I mean, shoot, he got a point. Shoot, the way Israel's saying it is like, damn, they're saying it so much, even Iran think they got a bomb. It's like, what you mean?
Seem able to say that.
Sure, I would say don't spy on us. They're going to anyway. And by the way, the Brits are, the Canadians are. Like, I don't think.
Well, I'm not for that at all. I think it's just.
Oh, and shout out to my man Jonah in the scenery. He said Jews want a holy war apocalypse. Prophecy done. Oh, well. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Okay. Shout out to my man Jonah in the scenery. Appreciate the support, man.
Disgusting, but we don't actually pay their, we're not their most meaningful sponsor. We're not sort of paying for the operations of the British government.
I gotta say, and this is, it's weird. We're talking about isolationists, the obsession with Israel. Why is Israel?
Oh, I don't think I'm obsessed with Israel.
Okay, but I think a lot of people are. And like the question, Israel spies on us. Well, so does every other country. Why are you mad at Israel?
I guess. Oh, no. I'm hardly the one who's. I've never taken money from the Israel lobby. Have you?
Taken money from the Israel
from AIPAC.
So AIPAC raises a lot of money for me, but it's actually.
I mean, it's only $1.8 million. That's all. A little money.
A misnomer because the people who raise money are individuals. Right. So it's not the PAC itself, but they're individual members who believe in the American-Israeli friendship and relationship. Is
AIPAC a foreign lobby?
No, it's an American lobby. It's the AIPAC stands for the America-Israeli Political Action Committee.
What does it lobby for?
So, to be honest, not a whole lot effectively. Listen, I came into Congress 13 years ago with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate.
Great.
And I've worked every day to do that. AIPAC, a lot of times, AIPAC, I wish were much more effective. Like, there are folks online who are in the fever swamp of terrified of AIPAC, and AIPAC.
I'm not terrified of AIPAC at all. I
mean, what you mean? AIPAC's agenda is on autopilot. They don't need to be any more effective. The agenda is now on autopilot. They paid their money. I mean, now they got some true believers in there that they don't even need money to promote the message.
You're the one who seems a little uncomfortable when I'm asking.
No, not uncomfortable at all.
I'm just asking what AIPAC does. My understanding, having known a lot of people who work at AIPAC, is that it lobbies on behalf of the Israeli government.
Wrong.
Oh, okay.
America has thousands of colleges and universities, and a lot of them, unfortunately, are basically just
man. I mean, to get on the topic of AIPAC, let's be real. It's more to hop on their the history of AIPAC more than what they're doing today. Because like I said, the agenda that they're pushing is kind of on autopilot. Let's be real. Like, it used to be something that they had to pay for and force, but now it's just something that they just kind of get off oh so smooth with. Like I said, they got a lot of true believers, aka Zionists, that will push the agenda for free.
For Hillsdale.com to sign up for
what a
Understanding
blessing for them.
Capitalism Today, the course Understanding Capital role for
Prime Minister Netanyahu.
All the time.
Name one.
Okay. Let me go back and give a little history. If you want to do a deep dive on AIPAC,
I don't. I want to do a shallow dive that gets.
No.
I want to get to the core question. AIPAC is lobbying for a foreign government, and I don't. It's not. It's lobbying for the United States.
It is lobbying for a strong U.S.-Israeli relationship.
Okay, so it's not has nothing to do with the foreign government.
It wants some.
Doesn't that mean, okay, you know what? I don't even know how to make that out. It is working for a strong U.S. and Israeli relationship, which means that it's kind of speaking on behalf of Israel, so it can have that strong relationship with the U.S. Some people say parasitic, but that's some people, not I, but a lot of people would say that.
America and Israel to be closely allied.
Okay, but it's lobbying on behalf of the interests of another country.
So that's not true at all.
And shout out to my man, William Turley. Hey, man, what's going on? And facts, everyone spies on everyone. It's proven facts. It's in America's interest to stay out. Hey, and I like how you still have that perspective. He's like, well, it's true. That is true, but it doesn't mean we should let it happen. And it doesn't mean we should go in and get into their wars. And here's the thing. If we let it happen, that's bad, because who's to say they might not use this information to, well, get us into a war? Come on now. Do we not see how this is kind of lining up?
And if
it's not true.
No.
How much contact do you think AIPAC leaders have with the government of Israel?
No idea. I imagine some. I think the government of Israel is often frustrated with AIPAC because AIPAC's not nearly strong enough.
Do you think there's any coordination between the government of Israel and AIPAC?
Do they talk? Sure. If you're lobbying for more U.S.-Mexico trade, would you talk to people in the U.S. and Mexico and the government? Sure.
So I'm not mad about that. There are a million countries that lobby Washington. I like a lot of those countries, including Israel.
But AIPAC are Americans. They're not Israelis. Hold on.
There are tons of Americans who lobby on behalf of foreign governments. I know them. I'm related to some of them. I know how it works. I'm from here. So my question is not, is it outrageous that foreign governments lobby the United States? They all do, okay, including Israel. My only question is, why don't we admit that is what's happening? You're denying it, but it's true.
Yeah, and why
aren't they registered as a foreign lobby?
Because they're not.
They're not a foreign lobby.
No, they're not. And this is that there's a fever swamp. Look,
it's not a fever swamp. These are very reasonable questions, and you've accused me of being obsessed with Israel, which I'm not.
I actually haven't. I've said
and being feverish about it, which I'm not at all.
Let's be real, dog. Even the way you said it didn't really kind of prove Tucker right. He's like, oh, we're working on behalf of trying to create a deeper relationship with Israel and America, or strengthening the relationship between Israel and America. Isn't that basically saying that, well, if the relationship gets too tight or too deep, then we are going to end up getting into their conflicts? Do you not see the problem? Why you call us isolationists? Dog, this is the reason why. Because you're trying to strengthen relationships with this country so much to where we're willing to go to war for them, to where we're willing to get involved with their conflicts. That's the problem. You kind of said it out loud. Well, you actually did.
I find it's a very tender spot when you ask it, and I don't know why.
So, Tucker, all right, let's go back. I was first elected to the Senate in 2012.
Oh, man, shout out to my man Jonah in the theater. He said, Ted dancing with the stars with word salad. And man, you ain't lying, my friend, because that word salad right there he gave for AIPAC, chef's kiss at that point.
Came in Obama's second term. And I actually saw AIPAC be badly wounded in a way they never came back from. And the second term is when Obama did the Iran nuclear deal. And the Iran nuclear deal, I think, was catastrophic. And AIPAC went all in lobbying against it.
Yeah.
And they failed. And I was the leading opponent of the Iran nuclear deal.
Oh, I know. They definitely failed, yes.
They failed. And what happened, the Obama White House told every Democrat, when I got here, there used to be real bipartisan support for Israel. That has largely disappeared. And it's the Obama nuclear deal that caused it, because the Obama White House told every Democrat, pick. You either stand with Israel or you're a Democrat and you stand with the Obama White House. And almost every single Democrat member of Congress said, I'm a Democrat first, to hell with Israel. And then I watched as AIPAC, every one of those Democrats got reelected, and AIPAC did nothing about it. And it dramatically reduced AIPAC's influence.
I agree. I watched it happen.
And by the way, I told AIPAC, I said, look,
I mean, to be honest, all these extremists who are also anti-Israel, it kind of works for AIPAC. It's like they have somebody to point to and be like, look, you don't want to be like them that's calling for the destruction and dismantlement of Israel. Look at these extremists over here who want our death. This is why you should be with us. That's what I always say. It's probably not, you guys with that, but Dan Bilzerian attitude towards Israel, I might want to pull back a little bit because you're kind of helping them out by being such extremists on Israel. And maybe we should pull back a little bit. I get that may be what you want, but maybe that's not the rhetoric you should go with. I'm just saying. Hey, shout out Drone in the Scenery. He said Jewish paid for word salad. They asked Kamala. Oh, wow. Shout out to my man Drone in the Scenery.
Analogy, if the NRA was supporting a bunch of politicians and cared about the Second Amendment, and you had politicians that vote to confiscate people's guns, and the NRA turned around and raised money for the people who voted to confiscate guns, you know what? No one would ever care what they said again.
So you're making the case that AIPAC is not as powerful as people say it is, and I completely agree with you. I've watched that, and I'm not making the case that AIPAC is all powerful and they're running everything and putting fluoride in the water. I'm not making that case at all because that's not true. I'm only trying to get to the question of what AIPAC is, and I don't think you're being straightforward about it. AIPAC is lobbying on...
He was being very straightforward with it. AIPAC is all there for strengthening the relationship and of U.S. and Israel together, strengthening that relationship so much to where we're willing to go to war for them. I mean, he said it out loud, Tucker. He just didn't say that last part.
Behalf of the interests of a foreign country, and they're not registered. And you're saying, no, that's not true. You're saying that they don't coordinate with the Israeli government.
Of course, I coordinate. Do they talk with them? I don't know what they do. I can tell you. But
why don't you care? Isn't it meaningful if a foreign government...
Hey, I talk with Israel all the time. I talk with foreign countries all the time.
But the law is, and a lot of people have been prosecuted under this law, that if you are lobbying on behalf of foreign government, you must register. That's it. It's really simple. And I don't know why... If I'm working from Malaysia or Qatar or Belgium, and I'm working on behalf of its government's interests through a group of Americans who are representing the friendship between those two nations, I have to register under the Foreign Agent Registration Act. And if I don't, I can go to jail. And people have gone to jail, including people I know. So I don't understand why we don't just be honest and say they're lobbying on behalf of a foreign government. They're coordinating with the government. You know that that's true.
That is not only not true, that is false.
They're not coordinating with the Israeli government?
Do you know how AIPAC raises money?
What?
For elected officials, like what they do, like what the actual mechanics is?
I get it. I mean, they go to people who are sympathetic to Israel and raise money and then send it to candidates who agree with them.
So what they'll do is, in my last election, AIPAC endorsed me. And they'll host a fundraiser.
Yes, a fundraiser for people who are going to come who are sympathetic towards Israel and give them money. What the... that's bait. Oh, my God. This guy think we stupid or something.
Fundraiser in Dallas or Houston or Atlanta or New York or LA, and they'll do a fundraiser and they'll get someone who will host it, and it's usually a business owner, lawyer, doctor, or someone who hosts.
Who's sympathetic to Israel, who want to have people who are also sympathetic to Israel that come through and give them money. It's like, yes, we understand the play.
And you get typically at an AIPAC fundraiser 30, 40, 50, maybe 100 people who live in that city,
right?
Who care about a strong U.S.-Israel relationship. Yeah. And if they have, 50 people, each of them writes $1,000 check, and you raise $50,000.
Yeah, I've been to an AIPAC fundraiser. I know what it looks like.
But that is not, and by the way, there's no representative of the Israeli government there. You have, when you're in Dallas, you're meeting with...
false and silly conversation. I know all this. The question is are AIPAC's goals shaped by the goals of the Israeli government to any extent?
Okay, that's a really simple from question. Lobbying on behalf of.
It's a simple question. Are AIPAC's goals shaped by the goals of the Israeli government? And I'm just going to ask you that question straightforwardly. And if you say no, I think we both know that's not true.
Hey, are they shaped by?
Are they coordinating with the Israeli government?
Are they talking with them? Yes. Is Israel directing them? You want to talk about FARA, the law on lobbying on behalf of someone?
Yeah. And shout out to my man Jonah in the Scenery. Says Ted is bought just like this super chat. And goddamn, man, shout out to all supporters, man. Appreciate you guys. I mean, yeah, $1.8 million bought. So, whew.
It is, I hire you and you lobby on behalf of me. I direct you. Does Israel direct AIPAC? No, they are not lobbying on behalf of them. Do they care about them? Yes, but...
Do you think that... It's just interesting because what you're now describing in a very defensive way, I will say, is foreign influence over our politics.
No.
And you began, and it's so transparently obvious to everybody. I don't know why you would be embarrassed of it. You've said that you are sincerely for Israel. I believe you. I don't think you have some weird agenda. You seem to be sincere.
By the way, Tucker, it's a very weird thing.
Bro.
The obsession with Israel. When we're talking about foreign countries,
it's hardly an obsession.
You're not talking about Chinese. You're not talking about Japanese. You're not talking about the Brits. You're not talking about the French. The question, what about the Jews? What about the Jews?
Oh, I'm an anti-Semite now.
I mean, it's kind of crazy when they say, well, why don't you talk about these guys? I'm like, well, no, why we don't talk about these guys? Because we're not funding them. We're not funding them. They're not in our Congress trying to persuade everybody to go to war for them. So, yeah, I'm sorry, but these guys are not as hands-on as Israel is. I mean, I feel like that should be pretty easy to understand if you're being honest with the argument. I mean, like, you want to know what the difference is between all those guys, Japan and all them that he just named? That they're not as hands-on as Israel is. That's the point.
Senator, you're asking the question, Tucker. You're asking, why are the Jews controlling our foreign policy?
Senator,
that's what you just asked.
Hardly saying that. And I have
That is exactly what you just said.
Well, actually, I can speak for myself and tell you what I am saying.
Good.
On behalf not simply of myself, but on of my many Jewish friends who would have the same questions, which is to what extent, and it's interesting you're trying to derail my questions by calling me an anti-Semite, which you are.
I did not.
Of course you are. And rather than be honorable enough to say it right to my face, you are in a sleazy feline way implying it or just asking questions about the Jews. I'm not asking questions about the Jews. There's nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It has to.
I'm crying. Bro said a sleazy feline way. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, then. Yeah, he got offended by that one. I got to go back on that. It was hilarious.
You are in a sleazy feline way implying it or just asking questions about the Jews. I'm not asking questions about the Jews. There's nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It has to do with the foreign government.
Isn't Israel controlling our foreign policy? That's not about the Jews.
You said, I'm asking.
And by the way, you're the one that just called me, I think, a sleazy feline. So let's be clear.
It's sleazy to imply that.
Hey, shout out William. You be like set for third party leader. Hey, man, shout out. You know what? Why not? At this point, it does seem like we need to throw away the Republicans because they want to be warmongers, and, well, the right because they want to be dildo lovers. And we're not agreeing with both sides. So it sounds like we need to come in the middle here and just, figure out our own party here. Because, yeah, the right and the left is kind of acting out of order. And here's the thing. We thought MAGA could sit over here and chill on the right, and we can get them to be no war. But I guess we were a bit off on that one. Because the warmongers are still out to play and they're still hold high power in the government. Let's be honest. It's not MAGA who's really in the government. It's the neoconservatives and neoliberals as well.
I'm an anti-Semite, which you just did.
No, I just said, why is that the only question you're asking? You answer it. Give me another reason. If you're not an anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession is Israel.
I am in no sense obsessed with Israel. We are on the brink of war with Iran. And so these are valid questions.
But you're not asking about Iran or the Ayatollah.
If I can finish. You asked me why I'm obsessed with Israel.
Yep.
3 minutes after telling me that when you first ran for Congress, you elucidated.
And shout out to my man, Hellbat. He says, who thinks Japan will strike? I have doubts. Man, I mean, wait, just Japan strike who? China? Because, I mean, that's probably the only people they actually have real beef with. And that's only if China is actually going to go into Taiwan, because everybody, everybody's been fear-mongering. I didn't need to say fear-mongering. It does seem like China is preparing for something right now. Not even going to lie.
Stated one of your main goals, which is to defend Israel.
Yes.
And I'm the one who's obsessed with Israel. I don't see a lawmaker's job as defending the interests of a foreign government, period. Okay. Any government, including the ones that my ancestors come from. So that's my position. That does not make me an anti-Semite. And shame on you for suggesting otherwise. And I mean that. And that's low, and you know it's low. So why don't you just answer my questions in a straightforward, rational way? You certainly have the IQ to do it.
So shame on you is cute, by the way, Tucker.
It is. It's not cute. I'm offended. I'm obsessed with the Jews. You just told me
you just called me a sleazy feline.
It's for asking questions about Israel, and that's the problem. It's like that's what you guys do. It's like the normal playbook that you guys run by. If we had to ask too much questions about Israel, you start trying to say, "Oh, well, why do you care about the Jews?" And I'm just like, bro. We didn't even mention the Jews. We're talking about Israel, the government of Israel. Let's keep leaving it on Bibi Netanyahu and his cabinet. And if you take it outside that, you're being dishonest.
It is sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite for asking questions about how my government is run.
You want to count how many questions you asked about? What about the Jews? What about Israel? What about AIPAC?
I never asked about the Jews. This has nothing to do with the Jews, whatever that means. This has to do with a foreign government. And once again, shame on you for conflating the two. They have nothing to do with each other. I'm talking about the influence of
Israel and Jews have nothing to do with each other?
All Jews, or an attack on all Jews, which I am not, nor would I ever be undertaking now. I'm not attacking anybody.
By the way, that's who Iran wants to kill, is all the Jews and all the Americans.
And I'm totally opposed to that, okay? But now, because
except you don't want to do anything about it,
decisions need to be made.
We can talk about those decisions.
And I plan to.
Good.
But I just want to get a sense of whether you think, having described yourself as an America First person whose only criterion for judgment on foreign policy is America's national interest, to what extent you're influenced by a foreign government, which gives you a lot of money through its lobby, and you're claiming this has nothing to do with the foreign government. They're not coordinating. Yes, they're spying on us, but it doesn't bother you. And I'm sort of wondering, like, what is this? This is one of the weirdest conversations I've ever had.
I'll tell you what, and I'll answer any question you like, but let's try to...
Are you going to call me an anti-Semite again, or no?
Let's try to ratchet down the temperature a little.
You're the one who went to...